Greetings, my friends. I know I've been doing a bunch of videos on my recent GT win, and there's 2 games still to come, but I've had so many questions about the company heroes, and people want me to compare them against Assault Intercessors to see why I was using them, and I've run the numbers this week, and the numbers are super interesting, so if you stay to the end of this video, I think you're going to question yourself about, are you including Assault Intercessors in your Blood Angels list? So let's dive right in, let's check out the full comparison, and at the end of the video, I think you'll see a clear winner. Alright, let's get into it. So hello and welcome to the weekly tactics video. If you are just meeting, my name is John. I go under the pseudonym the BA Commander here on YouTube. I know 1 or 2 things about Blood Angels, having played them pretty much exclusively for 7 years. So this week on the tactics video, we're going to look at the company heroes and the Assault Intercessors. Now we know Assault Intercessors are super meta and super popular, and the company heroes are not. So I want to dive in and find out exactly why. So here's my unpopular opinion, and let's just start the video with that. Company heroes are legitimately good. What we know is Assault Intercessors plus that Finest Hour Captain, that is the captain that gets the free strat and can do the Finest Hour for 9 devastating attacks in melee with a Power Fist, and side and Impulsor is the meta for Blood Angels, right? A lot of people will take 2 squads of that. It's super strong. It is very, very meta. The idea is push the Impulsors forward, turn 1, probably advance them, turn 2, disembark, make a charge, do the captain things, and do a bunch of damage, right? So why does that work really well with Assault Intercessors? Well, Assault Intercessors have the Shock Assault rule, which means each time a model makes an attack, you can reroll wounds. If the enemy's in range of an objective marker, you can reroll wounds of 1, but if you're in range of an objective marker, you reroll all wounds. Assault Intercessors are going to probably have a sergeant with a Power Fist, 4 guys with Chainswords. So with Blood Angels, that's going to give you 20 Strength 6 Chainsword attacks, followed by your 4 Strength 10 Power Fist attacks. Rerolling wounds of 1 all the time, sometimes getting full wound rerolls. What are company heroes? Well, they're a smaller squad. You only get 4 guys. You're going to get Ancient, a Champion, and 2 Veterans. 3 of these guys do not have melee weapons, so they just have close combat weapons, which is Strength 4, 1 attack with no AP, but it's 5 attacks per model, so with the charge with Blood Angels, that's going to be 6 attacks per model, so 18 attacks, hitting at Strength 6. The Champion is real interesting. He's going to get 7 attacks, hitting at Strength 7, -2, 2 damage, but the interesting thing, he is WS2. So, and he has precision as well. I don't really use the precision, but he has it if you wanted to use it. You have to attach these guys to a captain, no problem. They'll probably be attached to them. While the Ancient is alive, so usually the way I would kill off models is I would kill the guy. There's one that's got a Mastercrafted Bolt Rifle. There's one that's got a Mastercrafted Heavy Bolt Rifle. Probably kill those guys first, so when you've only got 2 left, you've got the Ancient, giving the rest of the squad OC2. And the Champion with the sword, probably kill him off last. Unless you're desperate for OC, then you might want to keep the Ancient. The squad is -1 to wound at all times. The squad are 4 wounds per model. Like I said, they've got the banner giving them +1 OC. That will also count for the captain attached, so he will become OC2. So if the whole squad's alive, they're OC10. And you've got 1 Mastercrafted Bolt Rifle, you've got 1 Mastercrafted Heavy Bolter, right? And then everybody has a bolt pistol. Whoop-de-doo. Okay, I actually missed it in the tournament that the Ancient had a bolt rifle. I didn't realize he had a bolt rifle. I just thought he had a bolt pistol. So I assumed it was 2 guys with a bolt pistol, 1 Mastercrafted Heavy Bolt, or 1 Mastercrafted Bolt Rifle. But that's how I played it. So, similar keywords. They got grenades, they got Tacticus. These guys, I guess, have Battle Line, if that is worth it. There's a small advantage to Battle Line in Pariah Nexus, so technically that could be good. Like I said, why do you take this captain? This captain is going to let you do 1 stratagem that costs either a CP less every battle round. So the 2 stratagems that spring to mind, or 3 maybe, is Grenades, Armor of Contempt, and the third one, Red Rampage, to give you +1 to wound, and to give you lethal hits. Very useful in melee. And then Finest Hour is what you do. Basically, I feel like you always want to use Finest Hour the second he gets into combat. So the second he gets into combat, you just call Finest Hour. So if he's charging, he would go to 6 attacks, then he would get +3 attacks, so you go to 9 attacks with that -2, 2 damage Power Fist, and they would all be devastating wounds. Hitting on 2s, of course. Rerolling wounds if you're attached to Assault Intercessors. And that's going to come up later when we math out all the damage. So it is important to think about this. He will do a bit more damage because of the dead wounds. Right. So let's just look at a comparison between these two squads to try and find out on paper why I was taking company heroes and why my unpopular opinion might have some weight, right? So if we look at the damage output from shooting, then you have basically those 2 bolt pistols. Yes, you could have had 1 more bolt rifle. There's 1 more shot in here, I don't care. 2 bolt pistols. You've got 1 mastercrafted heavy bolter, which is a damage 3 heavy bolter with a sustain 2, and you've got 1 mastercrafted bolt rifle, which is a damage 2 bolt rifle with a ballistic skill of 2 up, which is a bit strange, but nevertheless, and devastating wounds. So the maximum damage this squad would probably do would be like 17. I guess it would be 18 if you remembered that Ancient actually had a bolt rifle. An Ancient doesn't usually have a bolt rifle on the model. That's what confused me, I guess. But I suppose if you did roll a bunch of 6s for the sustain 2, you could actually get all the way up to 35 damage. I have actually rolled once 3 6s on that sustain 2 heavy bolter.
Could you say that again?
And got 9 shots. No, sorry. Yeah, I got 9 shots, sorry. Thanks for asking. I did actually roll 3 6s. But super unlikely. So realistically, these guys are never going to do 17 damage. They might do 10 damage if you're lucky. Right? Assault Intercessors, you got 4 bolt pistols, you got 1 potential hazardous plasma pistol, so these guys could do 6 damage. Again, they're never going to do 6 damage, probably going to do 2 or 3 if you're lucky. Right? So that's what their damage output comparison is in shooting. So if we move on to melee combat, and this is where things start to get interesting, you've got the 7 2 damage attacks from that champion, which is 14, and then you've got the 18 here from the heroes, which is a potential maximum of 32 damage. Your Assault Intercessors with 20 Chainswords and 4 Power Fists, yes, they have a reroll wound potential, but their maximum is actually 28 damage. So technically the company heroes can do quite a lot more damage in shooting, a little bit more damage in melee, and then let's talk about survivability. You've got 4 guys with 4 wounds, -1 to wound. OC2 while the banner bearers are alive for 95 points. You got 5 guys with 2 wounds, they're OC2 all the time, so for 75 points. So this is 10 wounds, this is 16 wounds with -1 to wound, and also this is an interesting breakpoint, in that if you come up against 3 damage weapons, like autocannons, and I've got some maths from them later, autocannons typically every failed save will be a dead marine, and autocannon is very inefficient, I guess, against the company heroes, because 3 wounds will leave 1 guy on 1 wound, which means 2 shots to kill 1 single model. So just straight off the top of your head, right, like you would need 8 failed saves on the autocannons to kill the 4 company heroes, whereas you only need 5 failed saves on the Assault Intercessors to lose the whole Assault Intercessors. Bear in mind as well, that's before you even factor in -1 to wound, which would be significant against various targets, right? Or various types of weapons. So that's the base survivability, the base charging damage, the base shooting damage. 20 points difference between the squad. Remember that. The company heroes are more expensive. But we're about to get into all the maths. You're going to learn something. You're going to rethink your army list. So subscribe for more videos like this to make you question everything. And if you get some value out of today's video, please hit that like button. Remember as well, if you do not click the bell icon, you don't get notified when I go live with a new video, so you'll miss out important tactics news that will help you be a better Blood Angels player. I'm assuming if you got this far, you are a Blood Angels player. You will be a better Blood Angels player, so why don't you click the bell? Okay, so let's move into survivability for shooting. Now, if you wanted to kill the whole squad of the company heroes, and bear in mind this is a strength 4 -1 1 damage weapon, but any strength 4 -1 1 damage weapon could be substituted out for this, you would need to hit them 96 times to essentially have them die. And why that would be 96 would be, right, bolt rifles would only wound the company heroes on 5s, so the 96 would basically be like a third. So I can't do 32, right? And then they would have to fail the saves at -1, so half of 32 is 16, that is their 16 wounds. So 96 hits with bolt rifles to kill 4 company heroes. That's a lot. If you look at the Assault Intercessors, you only need to hit them 40 times with the bolt rifles. So against AP1, 1 damage, strength 4, you can see straight away how much more survivability the company heroes have for only like 20 points more, which in the grand scheme of things is only like maybe 25% more points cost. These guys have like 230% more survivability. If we look at plasma guns, survivability is literally double on the company heroes. Again, they only cost 25% more points. And against autocannons, this is what I was talking about, survivability is 240%. Because autocannons, basically any 3 damage weapon is going to be pretty inefficient at killing 4 wound models. This is kind of why I picked these guys. And you can see straight away, remember, you can get free Armor of Contempt with these guys because they're led by the captain. So when you actually start playing the Armor of Contempt, it's going to take 18 plasma guns to drop the company heroes. I mean, that's 18 successful hits. You know, like if your opponent is playing a squad of Hellblasters or something, you know, that's 10 shots from a 115 point unit. How many successful hits are they getting? 6? So they're only killing a third. They're maybe killing 5 Hellblasters, or maybe killing 1 company hero. Autocannons, you know, knights have autocannons, right? So if the enemy is shooting you with their autocannons from knights, 36 autocannon hits to kill the company heroes. That's significant, right? And again, when you compare that to all Assault Intercessors, big jumps there in terms of survivability. And against the AP0 bolt rifles, again, massive jumps. So I was thinking, having played these guys a few times, knowing 4 wounds is a kind of a nice breakpoint against certain weaponry. Not all weaponry, right? There's no difference against 1 or 2 damage weaponry, but there is significant difference against 3. And the -1 to wound is significant as well, right? And we're going to come to orcs in melee here in a second. We're also going to come up against... So we've got the Man Reapers, which are the Death Shroud's weapons. We've got Power Claws from orcs. We've got Slaughter Claws from knights. So, Man Reapers, if you know Death Guard, then they make you -1 to your toughness. So again, the survivability of the company heroes, basically, because the -1 to wound means that those Man Reapers will have to wound on 3s rather than 2s, means the company heroes are double in survivability. Again, against strength 10 Power Claws, which would normally wound on 2s, they will wound on 3s. So again, double survivability based on the fact that they have some more wounds and they're harder to wound. Double the survivability of Assault Intercessors. I know probably a lot of people are thinking, I don't care about survivability because my Assault Intercessor is going to charge something, kill what they're going to kill, and then they're going to get mopped up anyway, which is a valid point, and we'll come back to that point, right? And then against Slaughter Claws, interestingly, they both have exactly the same. Slaughter Claws are 2 plus d6 damage, but interestingly, when I run this maths, I have to run the average of a d6 because I don't know how to work out that there is a swing on a d6. Like, all my numbers are done on averages, right? But here's the interesting thing. If you got hit with, let's say you need to be hit with 7 Slaughter Claws, right, to kill them. If your opponent ever rolled a single 1, for example, on the damage roll, then that would leave a company hero at 1 wound and would require a whole other Slaughter Claw hit to kill the same guy. So I don't know statistically, I guess, if you're trying to kill 4 company heroes and you've got to roll 4 damage rolls, if any of the first 3 numbers are 1, then you significantly increase their survivability again. But otherwise, you change nothing, right? So the -1 to wound basically combats the fact you have 1 less guy in the squad. But, you know, I've been in a few games now where the opponent, I've basically said to them, roll a 2 up to kill a company hero, and they've rolled a 1. So it friggin' happens. And when it happens, my goodness, it's a feel-good moment. I actually think in the game against Knights, which I'm going to get Kenny on to speak about next week. Kenny is my opponent for Game 4, basically, at the top table. He said he'd come on the channel next week. I think he charged the company heroes with a Knight that had, like, a Slaughter Claw. And I want to say, I think his Knight with a Slaughter Claw killed 1 company heroes and left the second one on a wound. So maybe 2 badly timed ones, but like that would have gone from basically, I guess if that was Assault Intercessors, I would have lost maybe like 3 or 4 because of the -1 to wound, probably, maybe even lost the whole squad. But the company heroes, I only lost 1 model. It's kind of big. So the survivability of the company heroes is very good, I guess, for 25 points more than the Assault Intercessors. And also, I guess their shooting is quite a bit better as well. So the main comparison here is melee, right? But why did I put company heroes on my list, right? I literally put them in because I tested them. I actually didn't run any maths on them. I just tested them. I thought they were interesting at 4 wounds per model. I thought it was interesting at -1 to wound. I thought that would be a good unit for holding objectives, holding the center. And I often found my Assault Intercessors would charge in and kill something and then they're dead, right? So I was kind of hoping I could have a unit that would charge in and kill something and then be a little bit difficult to shift and OC2 per model. And for 20 points more, which 75 to 95 points, it's literally like a 25% more increase in points. I think it was well worth it. Although overall less impactful than their melee, the shooting potential of 300% more damage also seemed decent for the points investment. And here's the thing, like in a couple of games, you do have a guy that has a 2 damage bolt rifle with devastating wounds, right? Against my game in the Votan, he just like popped the Terminator straight off the board. Like Votan Terminators with their 2-up save are very annoying for us to remove, especially when the Votan player is usually going to play Void Armor to make them -1 to their AP. So like Blood Angels are typically going to fight Votan Terminators and they're just going to save on 3s for days. So being able to just pick one up with a devastating wound from a bolt rifle isn't nothing, right? It isn't nothing. It's useful. So I like their shooting a little bit. It's not massive, but it isn't nothing. Whereas I feel like the shooting on an Assault Intercessor unit, usually it's like 4 bolt pistols. It is nothing, right? Like very rarely do my Assault Intercessors ever do any damage on shooting. Whereas I feel like the company heroes sometimes do. But that's why you're all here, right? You're here to talk about the melee. So let's get into it. And these numbers surprised me, but let's look at... I try to pick some things that would be meaningful. Like Marines are kind of my baseline. I picked like Green Tide Orc Boys because horde armies with Orc Boys can be something that we need to deal with. I picked Death Shroud Terminators, just basically a toughness 6 model with 2 wounds. In fact, that Death Shroud Terminators with a 6 and 2 up is basically the same as a Mega Nob, right? Because a Mega Nob doesn't have the 4-up invuln, but we can't really typically hit with more than AP2, so it doesn't really matter. Put Taluses in there just because they're annoying, and I put in Armigers because I thought I'm fighting Armigers at this tournament, but you could substitute that for any. I actually fought Chaos Knights, but regardless. So I started doing like all the numbers we talked about already, right? Like 18 attacks at Strength 6 and the 7 at AP2 and the Power Fist and the Chain Fist, remembering in fact that this company champion for some reason has weapon skill 2 up, and then I factored in the rerolls of 1s. We're going to come back as well because I did do some maths later where I did all wound rerolls. And then I played Red Rampage on them and ran the numbers again. I mean, pause this slide if you want to see them in detail. And if you are a channel member, which you just click the big join button under the video to become a channel member for like $3 or $4 a month. If you're a channel member, you can download all these slides. I always put them in a repository so you can download them and check them out anytime you want. Or you can just pause the YouTube video and not pay anything. I mean, that's up to you. And then I did the captain, right? The finest hour captain and the regular captain, or kind of like the captain when he uses his finest hour ability. And you can see here that I had to do it twice, right? Because the captain on the right has rerolls to 1, because he is the captain that was with the Assault Intercessors. The captain on the left doesn't have any rerolls. So you can see there's a little bit more damage coming out because of the ability to reroll 1s to wound. So the most interesting thing though is, right, when you call finest hour, your damage output increases by as much as 80%, right? Like if you look at Armigers, a regular captain with the 6 attacks and no dev wounds is doing 3 damage. The finest hour captain is doing 5.5. So my strategy in this was pretty much to use finest hour the first time I fought in game, just to guarantee I would get the most out of it, because sometimes you can still lose the whole squad in a single turn, and the company heroes are probably going to be jumping into a difficult place to be. So use finest hour straight away. And I also occasionally use this free strat for Red Rampage when I was charged. Like if I was charged and I felt like I could survive, I would use the Red Rampage to get lethal hits to try and do more damage in the fight back. That's not something I would often do with Assault Intercessors, because I don't think Assault Intercessors are very good at surviving, but you saw how much better the company heroes are at surviving. So my thought was, like, if I only lose a couple of company heroes, and I actually had that happen in a couple of games, I'll use to get lethal hits with my finest hour captain, with my 2 damage champion, who hits on 2s, and maybe do some significant damage back, right? So I use that. Obviously, when you use Red Rampage and you didn't charge, you don't get the Lance, but you do still get the lethals. So my plan was to use that as often as I can. And in one of the games, one of the finer points of this was I actually had to fight Mega Nobs. And the Mega Nobs, I think, only killed 2.5 company heroes. And that was kind of huge, because I managed to tar pit the Mega Nobs, and I think if they killed 2.5, right, that would essentially be 10 wounds, and that is with -1 to wound as well. So you would argue that if that was Assault Intercessors and the captain, I'd probably lose the whole squad, right, because there would be more wounds coming through, because I'm not -1 to wound. So I feel like my company heroes were able to tar pit a squad of Mega Nobs in the final of the GTU, the final game, a key point actually, and I think that was kind of actually a huge play that helped me actually take home the tournament win. So I really like the company heroes. So then I added it all together, right? So we get the company heroes damage and the captain plus Assault Intercessors damage when they're re-rolling 1s. And this is where it gets super interesting. So, like, the Assault Intercessors with the finest hour captain are only, like in this situation, less than 10% ahead against Marines. They are less than 10% ahead against Orc Boys. They're less than 10% ahead against Death Shroud. They're the same against Talos. And they're like 15% ahead against Armigers. And if you get the full rerolls, bear in mind that, for example, in the Marines and Orc Boys situation, you're already wounding on 2s with Red Rampage, right? Because you're strength 6, which is more than 5, and you already got +1 to wound. So you're already wounding on 2s. So there's no change here for the full wound rerolls, because rerolls 1s is the same as full wound rerolls, because you're wounding on 2s. So you're only rerolling 1s. So with your full wound rerolls, the numbers go up minor numbers as well, because we're hitting with such good strength, and we already got lethals, and we already got +1 to wound. So full wound rerolls is actually kind of minor. And I had to go back, because I was like, when I ran all these numbers and got them on the spreadsheet, I was like convinced that they were wrong. I was like, I thought the company heroes were pretty good, but I didn't think they were only 10% less melee damage, based on the fact they're like 300% melee shooting, or 300% shooting, and like 200% survivability. But it really comes down to, this is the thing that I took away from it, is your 2 damage attacks. Statistically, you only hit 2.66 times with your Assault Intercessor Sergeant with the Power Fist, because he gets 4 attacks hitting on 3s. Whereas the company champion with his weapon skill 2 up and 7 attacks actually hits 5.83 times. So the Power Fist is obviously much more efficient at the toughness 10 stuff, and I guess that's where the one value. So the company heroes, I guess, should not target units that are toughness 10. You would have probably realized that with the fact that, you know, they only have one weapon in the whole squad that is toughness 10, and that is a Power Fist on the captain. So you shouldn't probably be not going after toughness 10 things. I guess if you're playing knights, you don't have a choice. But that was super interesting. That, like, the damage output from these guys, even with the full rerolls, like full wound rerolls against Death Shroud Terminators, you're literally only 10% better off. Bearing in mind your survivability, which is massively improved. So yes, your Assault Intercessors are an Alpha Strike unit. For bang for buck, I guess, you get the most damage out of them. But is 20 points more worth it for the benefit that the heroes bring? My thoughts is like, I'm the meta. You can thank me later, right? I mean, I did win a tournament with the company heroes, and I don't think anyone else has done that. Try out the company heroes with the captain. You can kit bash these very, very easily. A lot of people have the old company veteran squads. Heavy intercessors, they're actually on 40mm bases, right? So I made mine, I jerry-rigged all of them. It was a heavy intercessor with a bolt rifle, another heavy intercessor with a heavy bolt rifle. I used the librarian with Terminator armor from the new Indomitus box and gave him a Sangre Guard banner. He had like a bolt pistol. I guess he had a storm bolter on his wrist, but I just played him like he had a bolt pistol, so he actually has a bolt rifle, so that would work. And then the company champion was released as a standalone model, which a lot of people bought for last edition before they discontinued him being on his own. So basically, my company heroes, the whole squad was jerry-rigged, but they worked so well. And I, honestly, if I was going to go full meta for Blood Angels, I'm probably not, because I quite like playing Outriders and stuff like that. But if I was going to go full meta, I guess 2 Impulsors with 2 company heroes and 2 captains could actually be kind of interesting. So the main weakness I see with the company heroes, right, is they, against units that have a base 2-up save. Terminators, Mega Knobs, Grey Knights. But the difference is, you're actually tanky enough to live for another round of combat. And like I said, when you're pooling models from that company hero squad, you're going to pool the guy with a heavy bolter, you're going to pool the guy with bolt rifle. You're already twice as survivable as the Assault Intercessors, so hopefully your captain with his Power Fist, your champion with his sword, are going to survive into another turn. And there is actually one other play that I didn't actually put on these slides, but remember, your champion with the sword has precision. There is a stratagem you could play on your captain to have precision as well. So you could actually have the 9 finest hour plus the 7 attacks. So you could basically get 16 minus 2 damage attacks with precision. And you could do that for free if you didn't use Red Rampage or something. So if you're confident with your, Strength 7 sword and your Strength 10 Power Fist with Dev Wounds and that you could precision out a character, you could actually do that better with the company heroes as well. So, like, the $1 million question is, for all you guys that are running, like, the Squad of Assault Intercessors, plus the Impulsor, plus the Captain, which basically costs 235 points, what do you think of the company heroes at 255 points? I want to know down below in the comments. Like, now I've given you all the numbers, you have all the data. Is anyone going to switch, or you guys all still love Assault Intercessors? Because I've played both extensively, and I am team company heroes all the way, guys. All the way. Like I said, I am the meta. I've won one tournament, my head's as big as the whole... I don't know, my head's as big as the sun now. I'm joking. I would like to play another tournament, probably. I gotta win another one now. That's the new goal. I gotta like make it like back to back, 2014. No, 2014. I'm 10 years out. 2024, 2025. Let's make it back to back. Okay, and that's it. That is it for this week's tactics video. I hope it was enjoyable. I hope I gave you some laughs. I hope it gave you some interesting information. I'd love to see what you say in the comments. Please like, subscribe, support the channel either on Patreon or click any of the affiliate links in the video description. Remember, the Blood Angels Commander store is open. You can grab your new t-shirts, etc, etc. If you want to do them, just click on the store button under the video. Thank you so much for getting to the end of the video. I do appreciate all you guys, and I will see you next week where... Oh, big announcement. Big announcement. Garen is coming on the channel on August the 8th for a rematch. He's going to bring the exact same list he took to the top table of the GT. So we're going to basically rematch the final game of the GT live on stream. Normally we go live on a Wednesday night. It's going to be the Thursday. So Thursday, August the 8th. That's going to be a big one. So I will see a bunch of you guys then. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great weekend. I'll see you soon. By the blood army made strong, my friends. Peace.